Hello and welcome to Prairie Pulse. Coming up a little bit later in the show, we'll hear some holiday music. But first, Matt Olien got a chance to sit down with the Fargo School Board president.
And I'm here with Robin Nelson, the president of the Fargo School Board. Welcome, Robin, to Prairie Pulse.
Well, thank you.
Yep, it's a lot to talk about, but why don't you tell folks first a bit about yourself, your background, where you're from originally.
Sure. I'm from Fargo. I was raised there and moved back to the area to raise my kids. And so I have two Fargo North graduates, and I currently have a junior at Fargo South. I have been on the school board since 2003. I had a two-year break. Everything in my life that I do is for kids. Essentially, my full-time job, I'm the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club and the Fargo Youth Commission, and do a lot of other boards for kids across the community. And I happen to be married to an educator as well. So
Great.
Education is very near and dear to my heart.
That's great. Let's get right to one of the biggest issues of this past year, not quite resolved yet, and that was a lot of consternation with parents on the south side of Fargo. There was talk of rezoning. A lot of kids that went to Discovery and Davies might have to go to the Fargo South track. I know it's not resolved yet, but take us through the issue, what's on the table, and when a decision might be happening, and why this is happening, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
So why it's happening is we are projected to be over enrollment targets at Davies and Discovery in the next couple of years. And we have some ideal class sizes and school sizes that we have in our guiding principles that the school board has continued to reaffirm every year. So those schools would get larger than those target enrollments. And so now it's time to figure out what to do with those extra kids. We can't move buildings, so I know it sounds kind of cold, but we do have to move kids occasionally. So the conversation started out with a task force. We got a lot of parent feedback, especially from the neighborhood, your neighborhood.
Mhm.
We had demographic studies. We did a pretty, I think there were, about 50 people on a task force. So lots and lots of feedback put together, and then the board brought all that information together and had a work session last summer. And out of that work session really rose to the top 3 or 4 items that we considered. The first one was year-round school, and that was squashed right away
Yes.
for multiple reasons. The other were boundary, still doing the boundary considerations. Some considered different grade configurations, and there's a lot of efficiencies that come into a K-5, 6, 8, 9, 12 consistency across the district, but that's a different conversation. But then also a fourth item that was added is the possibility of moving or building a new middle school to temporarily house an 8th and 9th grade academy. So take the 9th graders out of Davies and the 8th graders out of Discovery and have them there temporarily in what would eventually be a permanent traditional middle school. And then down the road, look at probably, I hate to say this already, probably looking at another high school.
Right.
There's a lot of overcrowding down south in particular.
That other option that came up, the 8th and 9th grade building, that
Yes.
seemed, I mean, nothing's approved, but that seemed to kind of be satisfactory to a lot of people in South Fargo, was it not? That was what I had heard anyway.
That was what
Yeah.
I perceived,
Yeah.
and I would expect if it is financially feasible within our building fund, that's not our general fund, our operational fund, our building fund, I would expect that will probably rise to the top. Board members hate boundary changes. Probably that this is the most volatile issue we ever deal with and emotional because it affects families and lifestyles and we get it. So if we can solve this issue and build a middle school but not do it prematurely, and that's the whole key, then I think that will probably be the preference.
And when will the decision, do you think, finally be made?
I would say, well, right now we are looking at feasibility studies for a couple
Okay.
plots of land. I would say probably, talking about a timeline on this, probably easily within the school year.
The school year we're in right now.
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do you feel that the board was pretty transparent in all this, despite, some people getting
Well,
upset and emotional and
course.
things like that?
We felt we were,
Yeah.
but I think a lot of other people didn't think we were. But all of our meetings are open to the public, and access to our emails and things like that. But if people don't get all the information that they desire, or they get some wires crossed, then confusion
Mhm.
settles in, and but we feel like we're transparent. But we can always grow in that area
Yeah.
and improve.
When do you think a fourth high school would be down the road?
Oh,
Tough to say.
oh, I hate to
I'm not
even
pinning
say
you
that.
down. Everybody knows it's going to happen.
Exactly. It would be. I'm not even going to put a date out there, because then that will become a topic of conversation.
That's right. Good
Yes.
idea. What's your position on, this was talked about busing kids up north to
Mhm.
fill classrooms. I mean, you said you had 2 kids that went to north. Obviously, just people aren't moving up to the north side of Fargo anymore for a variety of reasons. What's your position on that?
Well,
Which was
actually,
talked about.
yes, yes. It is not ideal
No.
to bus kids further out of their neighborhoods. It's not, and it's a temporary fix until you can justify building another school. Now, I will say that there are some hot spots up on the north side still, and that's around the Longfellow area. But the majority of the growth that we're experiencing and we are predicting is on the south side. It's never the ideal to bus kids out of their closest school or their neighborhood.
Mhm.
So I see that as kind of a last resort.
Yeah. Let's move to teacher safety. I know this is a big
Mhm.
thing we've heard about, concern about safety in the classrooms. What can teachers do when a kid
Mhm.
gets unruly? Just take us through that issue.
We are seeing a sharp increase in violent behaviors by our students. There are many speculations as to why we are seeing that. It's primarily in the kindergarten through second and third grade, which
Hmm.
is quite alarming. This is not just a Fargo issue, it's a national issue. Everybody is working on it. Um, I will say that we are required to educate all students through the IDEA, Individual with Disabilities Education Act, and different levels of needs. Each of them would have an individualized education plan that we have to follow closely. The idea is to have all kids mainstreamed as much as possible in their classrooms. There are some different levels of level A, B, C, and D are what we really work with in the Fargo schools. And then you get past that and you get into some residential and prairie and things like that. But the LRED, the least restrictive environment, allows us to, or requires that students are mainstream certain percentages of time. Now, we just did approve a level D facility and setting, the Explorer Academy, that will be added onto the Lewis and Clark School, and we will partner with West Fargo Schools in that effort. But I think it's important to remember, Matt, that adding this level D facility is not going to fix the other problems that we have there. So mental health is a front and center and I'm the state legislative chair for the school district as well. And how do we bring in some of those mental health services into our schools? The primary purpose for public schools is educating kids. We can't educate them if they have a lot of barriers that aren't allowing them to learn. And so we're seeing much more of a crossover now between the Department of Human Services and the Department of Public Instruction. If we could figure out a way to do it, we certainly would. And I think that would be the case for every school district in the country.
Now, if someone didn't know better, they might think teacher safety might be with older kids, but you're saying it really is rearing itself at the lower level.
It's growing in an alarming pace. I'm not saying that that issue isn't happening with our middle and high school kids, but teachers' hands are feeling tied because you can't place your hands on a
Right.
student, or depending on their individualized education plan, certain accommodations must be met. And it's not just the teachers that are getting injured, it's sometimes other students as well. So I did say when I was first elected as president, my major concern is classroom safety and not interrupting the educational opportunities for all students. Now, we must educate all students, regardless of their abilities, and that is our constitutional and moral obligation to do so. How we do that is what is getting a lot of attention, and for good reason.
Which leads us into my next question. You mentioned it. It's been approved.
Yep.
in Fargo. There'll be a building. You can tell us where it's at, when this is going to happen,
Yep.
where special needs students will be away from the main schools. Is that a fair way to say it, or how should you?
Let me explain it
Okay,
a little
yes.
bit more. That would be level D.
Level D.
And
Okay.
so level
Okay.
D is when there's, with the A, B, and C, there's a progressive pullout in percentages from their classrooms, their mainstream classrooms. Level D would be a separate facility, and that is required from the federal guidelines. The students that would be in the level D facility are less than 1% of our special education population. So those are some of the more severe needs, and really, they're, a school like that is there to teach these children tools and give them mechanisms so that they can function in a regular academic environment. So the goal is to get them back into the schools and mainstream them.
And where's that going to be? Where's it going to be
Yeah,
housed?
there will be an addition to Lewis and Clark Elementary on the south side there. Nice central location, easy access, and keep in mind, West Fargo is also going to build a level D facility. They are going to work on, or I don't know if it's approved yet, but that is the concept. They would do the middle school level, we would do the elementary, and we would share those as between the school district.
So that's an opportunity for you to correct some misinformation, because I think initially there was this, all special needs kids are going to be in the same building, and that is not even close to
Not
being
even close.
true. Right?
Nope,
Yeah.
absolutely not. And that's some of that messaging that
Right.
we couldn't get out in front of. And
Okay.
that happens often when you're a school board member.
It does, yes. You
So-
deal with that. Go ahead. You're going to add something?
No.
Okay.
No.
How far south can Fargo go in terms of purchasing land, and how does that conflict with West Fargo? Because West Fargo's land kind of zigzags
Yeah.
over to the east a little bit.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Well, I should say, first of all, there is some of the West Fargo School District that is in Fargo proper. So that makes it a little confusing. But what you're talking about is extraterritorial rings around each city. Now, what I've been told, and I haven't confirmed this, that Moorhead and West Fargo are about out of their running out of expansion areas. South Fargo is the only one that has some area to grow further south. I don't know exactly, but I know there's conversations about 100th Avenue South and things like that. Of course, we know Davies is on 70th, and there's a lot of development going on down there, but I don't know exactly what avenue.
But there is room
Yes, there
to
is.
build an 8th to 9th grade building, theoretically,
Yep.
in a new high school.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Where we're expecting the new middle school concept, if it gets approved, to be pretty close in proximity to Davies. And then who knows when when and where the new high school will need to be.
Is it a good problem to have that there's growth in this city? Or, I mean, I know it brings headaches with it, but at least it's not retracting, right? We're not losing people and out migration and things like that. People continue to come to Fargo.
Absolutely. I don't know if I've never even really thought about it as good or bad, quite frankly. We want to educate the kids. When they show up on our doorstep, we're going to educate them. With each student comes more funding, per pupil funding from the state. That is the majority of the income that we have, but that is not why we want to attract students. We just want to make sure we can offer them the quality of education that they all deserve.
What's it like being school board president? Is it stressful? Is it rewarding? Both?
Both.
Mhm.
Both. It's busy. I think a lot of people think I have more control than I really do. And actually, being a board president, you have less control, because it's my obligation to speak for the majority of the board. I facilitate meetings, and I publicly relay the majority of the board's wishes. So
Okay.
I have to be careful with what I say, because that is the obligation that I have as a board president. So.
At the elementary level, where do you see the crowding at? We've kind of
Yep.
talked about Discovery and Davies, but where are some of the crowding concerns in Fargo at the elementary level?
Bennett is there right now.
Bennett. Okay.
Yep. And we just received our updated demographic enrollment projections, and Bennett's the hot spot. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And a lot of the lots down there were bigger originally, and now they're making them smaller, so the homes will be more affordable. We know that that's going to bring more kids.
Mhm. Can you talk about, at Davies, I noticed the diversity that has come into this school
Yes.
system. I mean, immigrants really, doing a great job in this community and the kids coming in. And just tell me about that and how that's positively impacted the district.
Oh, it positively impacts our community, in my opinion. I'm sorry I don't have the demographic breakdowns, but I do know that about 8% of our students are English language learners. With that, that is some opportunity for growth and teaching there. But I think they add to the wonderful fabric of the students that we have. And I personally love the diversity. And Davies is just as diverse as South, and a lot of people forget that. So North is a bit more less diverse, but that's just where they land.
Right.
Yeah.
Just talk about all the clubs and activities that a larger district affords kids. AP classes, things like that. Yeah.
Boy, gosh, where do I start? You talked about the athletics. You talked about the drama and the music. We know that children that are involved in extracurricular activities are more likely to graduate on time with their peers and have better grades. So there's that aspect. There are things like electives, especially at the high school level, with a lot of dual credit opportunities. And we are very fortunate in Fargo to have the 3 campuses here. Our career and tech ed division is huge, with our auto tech, cuisine. We just learned about a new teacher intro program that the kids can take dual credit on. I mean, even with business classes, my kids were really into those, and DECA and things like that. So that is the benefit of having larger school district, but sometimes too big of schools isn't ideal. And when South was getting so big with graduating class sizes of about 563, I think was the top, we really wanted to have smaller graduating class sizes, and that's really what prompted Davies High School.
Mm-hmm. And it's been a good people. I remember at the time.
It was very controversial at the time.
Why are you building another high school? Right?
It's full.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And it's too full. So yes, that was quite controversial. But we as school board members, sometimes we have to take that grief because we know that for the long term, it will be the best for the community and the best for our students and our staff.
Got about a minute left. I forgot to ask you about teacher salaries, where those stand right now.
We have not completed our contract. That is the only sticking point to get this resolved. If we do approve, if we approve what is being currently pitched, we would be at deficit spending at $1.6 million and $1.7 million for each year of the contract, and that's pretty tough to swallow. We're responsible for teachers and their morale, and then delivering education, and then doing that within the confines of the taxpayers give us, and we're at the top of what we can levy, so we're in a tough spot.
Okay. Finally, if people want more information, where do they go? Website for
Absolutely.
Fargo Schools?
Fargo Public Schools website is www.fargo.nd.
I think it's K12.nd.
K12.nd.us.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you.
Stay tuned for more.
And now Sarah Moreau and Rebecca DeVries grace the Prairie Public Soundstage with their rendition of a holiday classic and a traditional hymn.
I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men. I thought how as the day had come, the belfries of all Christendom had rolled along the unbroken song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. on my head. There is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men.
Well, that's all we have on Prairie Pulse this week. And as always, thanks for watching.
Funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4, 2008. And by the members of Prairie Public.